They threw a can of Coca-Cola at her, thinking it would silence her, but what they didn't realize was that what they had unleashed wasn't humiliation. It was the spark of an awakening. Monica. Greene didn't rise just for herself. She rose for everyone who had ever been dismissed, silenced, or forced to shrink themselves just to be tolerated in a system that was never built for them. The story didn't end with 3 terminations, a multi-million-dollar project, or a scholarship fund bearing her name. The real impact was this. A power structure was forced to look in the mirror. Monica didn't respond with hate. She answered with action, with knowledge, with dignity, and with truth. When someone chooses to respond to injustice, not with a scream, but with a solution, she doesn't just change her situation. She redefines what strength means. A mature society is not measured by how it treats the powerful, but by how it honors those once seen as powerless. Dr. Eleanor Marsh, social ethics and organizational diversity experts. They thought she would stay silent. But what just spilled on her hair wasn't just Coca-Cola, it was the last straw. It all began on a quiet Friday afternoon on the 42nd floor of Vertex Strategies in Manhattan. Most employees had already left early for Labor Day weekend, but Monica Greene stayed behind, focused on finishing a strategic report for next week's investment meeting. She was the only Black analyst in the room, a fact no one said out loud, but everyone's eyes quietly confirmed. Then it happened. Crack. A can of Coca-Cola popped open. Dark syrup poured out, soaking into Monica's sleek black curls and staining the crisp navy shirt she wore. Lauren Price, department manager, blonde hair, red lips, Louboutins, laughed out loud. Oops, just a little carbonated creativity for your flat ideas, huh? As Ethan Campbell, the project coordinator, laughed and filmed the moment on his iPhone 15, the humiliation was sealed. Next to him, Lily Tran, the HR assistant, typed furiously, "When you hire for quotas, not competence." No filter, reality. Monica said nothing. She stood there, Coca-Cola dripping down her cheek, splashing onto pages she'd stayed up 3 nights to finish, and the entire office, a sleek glass aquarium, went ice cold. Some avoided eye contact, some stayed silent. No one spoke up. Lauren stepped closer, the scent of expensive Chanel mixing with the sugary soda. "You know what her problem is," she said slowly. "She doesn't know her place. Think a state school degree means you get a seat at this table. If it was a joke, it was the cruelest kind, but no one there thought it was a joke, and Monica." She calmly took out her phone and sent one message. What this office was about to witness would make sure they never misjudged the wrong person again. "You've just made the most important decision of your life," Monica said, eyes steady, voice calm to the point of chilling. There was no anger, no tears, just the unnerving quiet of someone who knows exactly what comes next. Lauren frowned, the arrogance on her face. Starting to slip, Ethan still wouldn't lower his phone, even sneering, "What, your blood sugar drop?" Meanwhile, Lily, the sharpest one in the room, began to feel something was very, very wrong. Then came the ding. From the far end of the hallway, the executive-only elevator chimed. Every head turned. The doors opened slowly. 3 security officers stepped out, first serious and swift, and then a tall man, dark-skinned, unmistakably powerful. Tailored, Tom Ford, suit a gleaming Audemars. Piguet, catching the light and eyes like blades of steel. Monica. Her name echoed softly but forcefully across the office. Anthony Langston. It was him, CEO of Langston Global Holdings. One of the most powerful men in America, and as many were about to discover, Monica's husband. "You okay?" he asked, a voice deep and razor sharp. It wasn't a question, it was a warning. Lauren's eyes widened, face draining white. Ethan stopped smiling. Frozen, Lily stood stunned, nearly dropping her phone. No one had ever imagined that the Black woman they'd mocked for 6 straight months would be called by name with quiet, dangerous tenderness by one of the most powerful men in the country. Anthony didn't wait for a word. His eyes swept across the 3, who stood frozen, then turned coldly to security. "Remove these 3 from the building." Immediately, Lauren screamed, trying to regain control. "Who the hell do you think you are? You can't give orders here. This is our company. Monica works for us." Wrong. Anthony stepped beside Monica and placed a protective hand on her arm, casually. intimately. "This is my company," he said, each word like a blade. "Langston Global is the controlling stakeholder of Vertex Strategies." Ethan dropped his phone. The crack of it hitting marble was the only sound in the room, like punctuation on a lesson. "Just learned." Lily said nothing. She opened her laptop, began typing. One quick search, and there it was. Anthony Langston, CEO Langston Global Holdings, net worth $8.1 billion. Monica quietly wiped the last of the soda from her face with a tissue. Her voice was low, steady, cutting through the silence. "While you were filming and laughing at me, not one of you stopped to ask who I really was. Not once. Because to you, I was just a quota, a checkbox to tick." She glanced at her watch, a slim, elegant Patek Philippe, and smiled faintly. "I waited 6 months. That's enough." The silence in the office was now thick, like even the air was holding its breath, waiting for the next blow. From the elevator, another man stepped out. Charcoal suit, thin-rimmed glasses, holding a sleek black leather briefcase. No one in the office recognized him, but Monica smiled. "This is Marcus Hale, Chief Legal Officer of Langston Global. He was also a groomsman at my wedding." Marcus didn't bother with greetings, no small talk. He walked straight to the conference table, opened his case, and began handing out folders to each person. These contain full documentation of workplace ethics violations, psychological harassment, and systemic racial discrimination occurring at Vertex, specifically involving these 3 individuals. Lauren trembled as she flipped to the first page, a screenshot of the email she'd sent to the department titled "New Hire from the Diversity Program I Give Her Until End of Q1. Ethan turned ghost white as he saw a screenshot of the Circle of Real Talent group chat where he once posted a photo of Monica eating alone in the cafeteria with the caption, "When the quota hasn't found her click yet." Lily panicked when she saw her deleted Instagram story, secretly filming Monica, wiping her desk late at night with the text, "Housekeeping Queen." Better at this than her reports, complete with a mop emoji. Marcus slid a tablet in front of Lauren. "You assumed Monica was weak because she didn't retaliate, but for the last 6 months, she's been documenting everything. Conversations, behavior, emails, texts, hallway footage, all of it stored securely in our systems, and today, we make it public." Lauren gasped. "This is a violation of privacy." Anthony folded his arms, cold and direct. "Like when you filmed Monica and posted it on the company intranet with the caption, Coca-Cola bath for creative clarity." Ethan stammered, It was a joke. Just fun. No one thought it was serious." Monica cut in, her voice steady like presenting a case. "You filmed me being humiliated and laughed. My little sister, she's 14, saw that video from a classmate. She didn't laugh. She cried all night because she didn't understand why her sister was treated that way. And me, I felt sorry, not for myself, but for you, for thinking cruelty was entertainment." Marcus nodded, delivering the final blow. "All 3 of you are hereby suspended, pending an internal investigation. If you fail to cooperate, we'll escalate the matter to New York State authorities." No one objected. They couldn't. They were already defeated. As security stepped forward, Monica rose calmly, gathering her belongings into her bag. She walked past Lauren, paused, and whispered, "I was going to take today off, but you just gave me a reason to stay and clean out what you call company culture." At exactly 3:47 p.m., an email went out to all Vertex employees. Subject line: official statement from executive leadership, restructuring diversity policy and internal culture reform. The leadership announcement sent shockwaves through Vertex's internal system. Over 400 employees received the email at the same time. The subject line was brief but explosive. Mandatory changes, effective. Immediately, Monica didn't leave the building. She, Anthony, Marcus, and 3 legal aides headed straight to the executive boardroom on the 28th floor, where an emergency meeting with the full board and all department heads was about to begin. On the 110-inch LED screen, Marcus pulled up a presentation titled "Evidence of a Hostile Work Environment, Sterling versus Vertex Corp." 1 minute of silence. Then the first slide appeared. The incident on September 1st was not an isolated case. It was the culmination of a system-wide injustice. Video clips, emails, screenshots rolled out one by one. No one interrupted, no one defended those named, and no one could deny the truth unfolding before their eyes. After the presentation, Anthony stood and addressed the Vertex leadership team directly. "We're not here for an apology. We're here to lay the foundation for change. Sterling Group is formally requesting an independent audit of Vertex's diversity and workplace culture conducted by a third party. All strategic contracts with us are suspended until this process is complete." A marketing director shut up, panicked. "You can't do that. Our Q4 relies on Sterling's funding." Anthony didn't flinch. "And our Q4 relies on ethics." Last I checked, profit doesn't justify silence in the face of injustice. Monica stepped forward beside him. "This isn't revenge, it's reconstruction. Starting right here with the people who still think diversity is a poster on a wall, not a core value to survive by." Marcus placed one final folder on the table. "This is a proposal to establish the Monica Sterling Technology Scholarship Fund, financed by the mandatory equity forfeiture of the 3 suspended individuals." The air in the room was heavy, but it wasn't the silence of fear anymore. It was the silence of recognition of a tectonic shift happening inside the heart of leadership. Minutes later, the CEO of Vertex, a white man in his 60s who had long sidestepped the topic of diversity, stood. His face was grim, but not for profits. "For shame, I let it happen right under my nose. No more excuses. We'll sign the proposals immediately." The next day, Monica returned to her old office. The desk where she once sat alone now held a large bouquet and a handwritten note. "Thank you for not staying silent," from those who once did. And just as planned, the Equicode project, an AI platform Monica had developed, received $20 million in funding from Sterling Group for enterprise-wide deployment. Its mission to detect discriminatory behavior in HR systems using hidden data patterns and deep learning. Within a week, 28 companies signed on. Within 30 days, 9 HR directors were terminated after internal audits. Within 90 days, over 500 scholarship applications poured in from across the U.S. to the Monica Sterling Fund. It was a fight Monica never asked for, but she turned it into a full-scale counteroffensive, and the system had no choice but to change with her. 3 weeks after the seismic event at Vertex, the name Monica Sterling had become a symbol in the world of tech and corporate America. Not because she was the wife of Anthony Sterling, but because she did what no one else dared to do: confront, expose, and rebuild a system designed only for people who looked alike. Elsewhere, the names once featured in hundreds of toxic internal emails were now making headlines of a different kind. Former Vertex creative director, rejected by 14 employers. Recruiters flagged ethics concerns on file. HR assistant who mocked black colleague issues public apology, but receives no forgiveness. Coca-Cola video resurfaces on TikTok, hits 12 million views. Lawyers confirm it may constitute criminal harassment. As the media clamored for statements and apologies, Monica remained silent. No interviews, no talk show appearances. Instead, she went to Houston, where her father, Marcus Thompson, had driven a city bus for 40 years. In the same small auditorium where she once attended her high school graduation, Monica announced her first scholarship program, 100 full scholarships for young black women pursuing data science. She said just one sentence, and it spread across social media like wildfire. "I don't build walls to keep others out like you did. I build bridges, so those who come after me don't have to walk through the same mud." I did. Back in New York, Anthony watched his wife on screen, speechless with pride. He knew if no one had dumped that Coca-Cola Vertex might still be quietly discriminatory, and Monica would still be a silent genius in the shadows, but now she was a force of change. Not because she struck back, but because she built forward. The following month, Microsoft, Salesforce, and IBM all signed global partnerships to deploy the Equicode platform. Monica turned down every offer to join the executive boards of major corporations. Instead, she chose the role of independent equity culture advisor for enterprises. At Vertex, those who once stood by, silently, as she was humiliated, were now the frontline team, implementing new internal policy. One of them, Tom Gardner from IT, sent an all-staff email. I stayed silent. Then, now I speak, not to erase what happened, but to make sure it never happens again. And at home, Monica received a small package with no return name. Inside was an envelope with a single handwritten note. "I'm sorry for laughing." She folded it, placed it in a wooden box, where she kept her most meaningful mementos next to the slip of paper from that day's message. In 15 minutes, everything will change. And it did. This story started with a can of Coca-Cola, but it didn't end there. It lives on in new policies, in the students who now walk through the doors of MIT for the first time, in hiring managers, forced to rethink their systems, and in those who once stayed silent, who now understand that inaction is a choice, and that choice has a cost. 6 months after that fateful day at Vertex Lincoln Center was filled to capacity for the premiere of a special documentary, Monica, when justice became an action, spotlights lit up the stage where Monica Sterling stepped out not in a business suit, but in a simple black dress, elegant, proud, needing no introduction. She began. The day they poured Coca-Cola on me, they didn't realize they were watering the seed of something far bigger than me, bigger than them. And today you are witnessing its fruit. In the audience were people who once saw her as just another name on the payroll, now standing in applause. In the front row sat scholarship students of the Monica Thompson Fund, upright in their uniforms, representing the future she had made possible. The documentary didn't just expose individual abuse, it unveiled the hidden architecture of bias embedded in corporate systems. But the moment that left audiences in tears wasn't the racist emails. It was the silent footage from a security camera. Monica quietly wiping soda from her hair. Her eyes not angry, only filled with a steady resolve. I will not back down. The film closed, with her words projected across the big screen. Justice is not punishment. It's the chance to rewrite the rules so that everyone, regardless of color or origin, plays on the same field. In the 12 months since the incident, Monica's scholarship fund had supported 713 Black students pursuing careers in tech. 48 companies, including Apple, Meta, and Amazon, had implemented her EquiCode fair evaluation system. Monica declined all CEO offers. She turned down even a high-profile Woman of the Year nomination. Instead, she chose a quieter title, Enabler. In a rare interview with The Atlantic, Monica said, "I don't need titles. I need to know that no one else will ever feel like an exception, merely being tolerated." Brad, the man who filmed the Coca-Cola rain, now drove for a delivery company. His once mocking face now recognized and avoided at every stop. Jessica had disappeared from the internet, living in digital exile. Samantha wrote letters of apology, none of which received a reply. Meanwhile, the Monica effect became a term in business schools, describing the phenomenon where a marginalized individual uses discrimination as a catalyst to force systemic change. Universities integrated the case study into MBA programs and HR policy training. But to Monica, success didn't live in textbooks. It lived in a message in her inbox from a 17-year-old girl in Detroit. "Ms. Sterling, I just got the Monica Fund scholarship. I'm the first in my family to go to college. Thank you for not giving up." Reading that, Monica wept, not for the pain of the past, but because she knew she had turned that pain into a door for others to walk through, and that was her greatest victory. 1 year after the Lincoln Center event, Monica Sterling's name appeared on Time's list of the 100 most influential people in the world. But when reporters called to request an interview, her assistant responded with just one line: "Ms. Sterling is busy with those who need her more," because at that very moment, Monica was sitting on the floor of a classroom on Chicago's South Side, surrounded by a circle of 15 high school students, explaining how AI can be used to detect bias in hiring. She wore a plain hoodie hair, tied back laptop on her lap, eyes ablaze with the same fire she had on the first day she walked into Vertex Coca-Cola, still dripping from her hair. But now, there were no cans thrown. They listened because they knew she had done what no one believed was possible. Vertex, the company where she had once endured so much, had collapsed completely. Its former headquarters was renamed the Monica Thompson Center for Ethical Technology, etched in bold black steel across the lobby wall. "Revenge is loud. Justice is permanent." Monica didn't choose silence. She didn't choose revenge. She chose to build. She chose to create. The Monica Fund had awarded 1,000 scholarships. 42% of recipients were women, most of them Black or Latinx. Among them, 8 now worked at NASA. 19 had launched successful startups, and one, Jailina Reyes, age 22, had just joined the United Nations AI development team. When asked what inspired her, Jailina simply said, "Miss Monica once looked at me and said, 'No one gets to decide your future just because they don't understand your present. From that day on, I was never afraid again. Monica didn't just change a company, she didn't just change an industry or a community, she redefined what reclaiming justice looks like, not through fury, but through action. In a rare appearance at the TED Women Conference, Monica shared, "I don't fight back by taking away other people's opportunities. I answer by creating so many opportunities that they can no longer deny our existence." When asked if she had any regrets, Monica simply smiled, "Only that I once believed I had to be small to survive." On the second anniversary of the Coca-Cola incident, a sculpture was unveiled at the new Tech Innovation Park in Brooklyn. The bronze statue depicted a woman standing tall in the middle of a storm, but instead of rain or soda, the downpour was made of lines of code numbers, symbols, the tools of transformation. The plaque below bore only one sentence: "No one can take your dignity unless you let them." This is the story of Monica Sterling. A junior analyst laughed at, a wife underestimated, a black woman in a room full of privilege who chose not to stay silent, and by doing so, changed the world. The end of an era, but the beginning of a legacy. 3 years after that fateful day at Vertex headquarters, the name Monica Sterling was no longer just a symbol. It had become a verb in startup culture to sterling, meaning to act decisively and strategically to turn injustice into progress. At a Harvard Business School seminar, a senior student asked the professor, "What's your take on the strategy of sterlingizing company culture?" The room burst into laughter, but no one denied it worked. Meanwhile, Monica quietly worked from the new headquarters of the Monica Tech Equity Lab, a creative hub housed in a repurposed factory in the Bronx. The very space once used to mock her had now become America's leading AI center for social equity. She rarely appeared on television. She declined every brand ambassador offer, no matter how prestigious. She turned down all 7-figure book deal proposals to write a memoir. Instead, she ran training sessions. She led free coding classes. She helped fund startups founded by students of color across the country. She understood one thing: if her experience remained only an inspirational story, it would be forgotten, just like so many viral scandals before it. She wanted to turn that day's rage into lasting structure, into replicable opportunity for thousands of others. One early spring morning, Monica received an email from an unfamiliar address. The subject line read simply, "Thank you." Inside a trembling line of text: "My name is Zuri. I'm 17. I used to believe I didn't have a future. Then I received a scholarship from the Monica Fund. And yesterday I got accepted into Columbia's computer science program. You don't know me, but you changed my life. And now, I'll change someone else's." Monica read it again and again. She printed it out, folded it gently, and tucked it into her coat pocket. Right beside the blueprint for a new app, an anonymous AI system designed to help workplace discrimination victims report violations without revealing their identity. She didn't reply. She didn't need to, because she knew Zuri was one of hundreds, maybe thousands of seeds that had grown from that spilled Coca-Cola, and those seeds were becoming a forest of equity where no one is diminished because of where they're from, the color of their skin, or the gender they carry. At a small TEDx stage in Oakland, a young speaker named Zuri Dembele stood on a creaky wooden platform gripping a microphone, her voice trembling as she looked out at the crowd. "People ask me why I believe in justice over anger. I don't have a theory. I only have a photo of a woman standing in a boardroom, her shirt soaked in soda, her eyes locked forward. And I know that's who I want to be." In the back row, Monica sat quietly. No one knew she was there. She simply smiled and bowed her head because she understood a true legacy isn't your name on a building. It's when those who come after you no longer need you to fight for themselves. 6 years after Zuri's moving TEDx talk, Monica Sterling was invited to speak at the United Nations headquarters in New York. In the grand hall that had hosted presidents and prime ministers now echoed the name of a woman once dismissed as a diversity hire, not as a CEO. Not as the billionaire's wife, as tabloids once reduced her. Today, she stood there as the founder of the Sterling Framework, the world's first ethical AI infrastructure officially adopted by the UN as a global standard for equity-based assessment in organizations. As Monica walked to the podium, soft lights illuminated her simple black suit, no branding, no flash, just the calm presence of someone who had seen too much pain and turned every scar into an instrument of change. 9 years ago, she began her voice steady and warm, A can of Coke was thrown on me, not because I did anything wrong, but because I didn't fit what they thought someone should look like. Today, I'm not here to relive that story. I'm here to say unjust systems don't collapse on their own. They need people willing to not be silent, and they need new systems to take their place. She paused. Her gaze swept across the thousands of representatives from every nation on Earth. The Sterling Framework is not a product. It's a promise that technology must never be indifferent, that data cannot be separated from dignity, and that any AI created must reflect the diversity, fairness, and humanity of all people. The hall was silent, not because they didn't understand, but because they were hearing something the world had long forgotten how to say with such clarity. Justice isn't an abstract idea, it must be designed, built, and defended. In the audience, Zuri, now a young PhD and the head of MIT's machine learning ethics team, held the hand of her co-founder. They were the post-Sterling generation, raised not by anger, but by hope and action. Across the UN's floors, dozens of screens displayed impact data since the launch of the Sterling Framework. Workplace racial bias down 61% among participating companies. Over 2,000 false allegations overturned using fairness-first AI models. More than 70,000 youth from marginalized communities had received tech scholarships partially funded by penalties from past corporate violations. Someone once asked Monica, "Do you ever regret not staying silent, not taking the safer path?" She had only smiled. If I had stayed silent, people like me would still be seen as system glitches. Now we're rewriting the system. That evening, on the rooftop of Sterling Lab in Harlem, Monica stood alone looking out over the city. Light from the skyscrapers shimmered against the glass of lemonade in her hand. No champagne, no celebration, just a single notification on her phone. Congratulations, Sterling Framework, officially approved as the international standard for transparent technology. Beneath it, a message from Zuri. They thought Coke could drown you, but you turned it into a ripple that changed history. Thank you for not staying silent. Monica didn't reply right away. She set down her glass, slipped off her aching heels, and stepped barefoot onto the balcony. The night breeze was cool. In the distance, the lights of the Bronx still glowed, the place where it all began. She closed her eyes. Once a can of Coca-Cola had been poured onto her blouse. Now she had poured it back into a wave of justice. They threw a can of Coca-Cola at her thinking it would silence her, but what they didn't realize was that what they had unleashed wasn't humiliation. It was the spark of an awakening. Monica. Greene didn't rise just for herself. She rose for everyone who had ever been dismissed, silenced, or forced to shrink themselves just to be tolerated in a system that was never built for them. The story didn't end with 3 terminations, a multi-million-dollar project, or a scholarship fund bearing her name. The real impact was this. A power structure was forced to look in the mirror. Monica didn't respond with hate. She answered with action, with knowledge, with dignity, and with truth. When someone chooses to respond to injustice, not with a scream, but with a solution, she doesn't just change her situation, she redefines what strength means. A mature society is not measured by how it treats the powerful, but by how it honors those once seen as powerless. Dr. Eleanor Marsh, social ethics and organizational diversity expert.